BREETAI Credanik, a decorated Zentraedi warrior, both as an accomplished soldier and a gifted fleet commander. Handpicked by Supreme Commander Lord Dolza himself to track down and locate Zor's superdimensional fortress, full of the secrets of robotechnology and possibly the key to endless energy and ultimate power. The noble BREETAI knows the importance of this mission to his people and their continued superiority in the cosmos. If his mission was to destroy Zor's battle fortress, known by the Micronians who captured it as the SDF-1, it would have been a fairly simple matter. But to capture it intact and as undamaged as possible is an entirely different challenge, especially with these Earth beings proving more dangerous than anticipated. Surely they themselves have already unlocked Zor's secrets hidden in the ship, or perhaps this is a power all their own. Exodore advised caution, and BREETAI concurred. Their last major assault against the ship lost them a handful of vessels, a costly move. With their brazenness of executing a spacefold in the atmosphere of a planet, their craftiness at reconfiguring the battle fortress to multiply its attack power, as well as the sheer ingenuity of their fighter craft, BREETAI has found it prudent to keep at arm's length of the ship, outside the range of its main gun, as it plays some cat-and-mouse game, evading them within its adopted solar system. BREETAI could be patient, but that was wearing thin. They'd spent much time intercepting transmissions from the ship, studying battle data, and now felt they knew their enemy well. They now had tracked the ship close to the orbit of the 6th planet of this system, a beautiful world encircled by rings. It was time he and Exodore plotted their next maneuver.
Playback request?
No, let it continue a little longer.
Yes, sir.
What planet is that?
I believe it is the 6th planet of this system. I expect they'll probably try to hide behind it, or perhaps within the rings to escape detection.
Interesting.
If they switch to ECM within close proximity to those rings, my lord, we'll never find them.
Yes, it would be the logical decision for them.
And what is your decision?
I'll let them attempt their clever little plan. We'll follow them. As they would say, it'll be like shooting fish in a barrel, whatever that means.
Rick's basic training involves more than just his piloting skills, naturally. VERITECH pilots were the elite force aboard the SDF-1, and one truly needed their body and mind in peak condition to not only fly in space, but operate a battleoid. Plus, Rick could stand to learn a little discipline as it is. Having been fast-tracked due to his high scores and piloting aptitude, he graduates from basic training, earning some leave time, and he knows exactly who he wanted to spend that time with. Ever since the transformation, the crew and people of MACROSS City have already rebuilt the town, adjusting as much as possible to mitigate such damage in the future. By this time, they even have a shopping district, and it's here we find Rick, freshly minted in his new uniform, doting on his friend, Minmei.
Rick, let me carry that.
No, it's okay.
But it looks bad.
Stop worrying about the
Well,
uniform.
if you don't mind. Please, Rick, stop just a minute. Ooh.
Huh? Oh, yeah, it's really nice.
I promise we'll only be a second.
What? Oh, I can't go in there.
What else did you have in mind?
Oh, boy.
It's funny. I know this scene is cartoonish, but Rick being a gentleman and carrying Minmei's stuff, awkwardly following her into such a store and meandering about while she tries things on, and he's trying so hard not to look like a single guy lurking in the ladies section for fun. As a kid, it always seemed like such a silly situation, like only on TV. Yet the grown-up me has found myself in that situation a couple of times. And then, of course, when you run into someone you know... In Rick's case, he gets noticed by the bridge officers, Sammy, Kim, and Lisa, who decide to come back when it's less crowded. As Rick juggles the accoutrements of Minmei, she excitedly pops out to show him her dress she just picked out. but is annoyed to find him horsing around, hardly paying attention to her.
Well, Rick, what do you think of it? Huh? What are you doing?
That's a great outfit, all right.
Ah, young love. Captain Gloval once again pays a visit to Dr. Lang, who has informed him of an anomaly discovered in the space where the fold systems used to be. It seems this multiphasic residue left over from the space distortion created by the fold engines is an energy that could be harnessed and put to some use. Theoretically, it could be refined into a barrier that could protect the ship, again in theory. Gloval asks for a full report once Dr. Lang has finished his analysis. Back at the barracks, Roy takes some time with Rick to give him some good old-fashioned advice, now that he's finally a fellow serviceman.
Remember, even though you have your own room, it doesn't mean you can fool around. Oh, and one more thing.
What?
Attention!
Good afternoon.
You little devil, I didn't know you knew Commander Hayes.
Yeah, well, kind of, you know what I mean?
It's him! That's Mr. Lingerie! Mr. Lingerie! Oh my goodness!
My dear Commander Fokker, is this the brilliant new pilot you were raving about? Introduce him.
Of course. Rick?
I'm Rick Hunter.
I'm Commander Lisa Hayes.
Please
Rick
do-
Hunter. Why does that name sound so familiar to me?
Ah!
I remember now. So that's our civilian pilot. I wondered why he didn't know how to fly his plane.
Hey, Roy, who's the sourpuss?
That old sourpuss happens to be Commander Hayes, our first officer.
What?
You're that loudmouth pilot, aren't you?
And you must be that...
Yep.
Oh, no. Oh.
I'd say you'd better watch that mouth from now on, because she's your superior officer.
Sir!
I hope for his sake he takes your advice. Oh, by the way, I don't know what your particular problem is, but it really doesn't look too good for you to be hanging around in lingerie shops.
Lecture?
Of all the people to run into, not to mention be a subordinate under. From the first moment he'd seen Lisa, he knew he didn't like her. She'd certainly never been gracious to him in any way, and now she had every excuse to make his life a living hell. Perfect. Lisa already saw this boy as a troublemaker. If he just confessed he was a civilian from the beginning, she could have avoided all of that nonsense back at the inaugural launch of the ship. But clearly he had no respect for rules, regulations, or women in general. Oh, she'll make sure he knows exactly who's in charge now. Rick wished Roy had warned him of the ball busting he was signing up for when he enlisted. The SDF-1 enters the orbit of Saturn, using the rings to disrupt the sensors of the Zentraedi, hoping to hide for a time, as Lisa asks Captain Gloval of their next move.
Captain, I've activated the ECM. In T-minus 12 minutes, the enemy will be completely unable to track our position, and then we set the trap. So what's our next move?
A Blitzkrieg.
A what?
A Blitzkrieg?
Captain!
Captain Gloval knew that Saturn presented an opportunity. Sometimes, when a bully keeps harassing you, the only option is to punch them in the nose and make them think twice next time. This chance for a counterattack to push the Zentraedi off their flank couldn't be passed up. Truly, Gloval hoped to send a message and cause the enemy to retreat before they return to Earth, so as not to bring the Zentraedi back to their doorstep. If they could somehow beat them out here in space, such a lightning strike could send that message. As the word is given of the impending counterattack, Rick finds himself among so many seasoned veterans. He feels like such a kid. But the colonel issuing their orders tells them of the important mission they'll all be facing in the morning. Considering the danger entailed in this operation, they are all given leave from the base tonight if they'd like. Rick knows he may be facing his last night ever, and decides to see Minmei one last time. She meets him in the park, wondering what his big emergency was. When he tells her he's being shipped out in the morning, she's so happy he finally has his first real mission. Her reaction falls a little tone-deaf on Rick's ears, but he decides not to spoil her good mood. The fountain next to them turns on, brightening the evening air with a display that makes Minmei gasp. In the light, she waits for Rick to notice her dress, but his lukewarm reaction makes her freeze up. Being smart enough to know what he'd done, he forgets his worries about the mission and finally focuses his attentions on her. His genuine compliments thaw her demeanor, and he presses this moment, suggesting they have their picture taken together. Her demure and modest response encourages him as he calls over a little camera bot waiting in the park for just such a couple to request him. 1 coin gets you 1 picture, and Rick and Minmei get ready to pose. Rick stands at attention like the soldier he now is, but the gesture Minmei makes of holding Rick's arm means the entire world to him. As the camera finds its focus, you can see it on Rick's face, as his anxieties about tomorrow's mission melt away under Minmei's warmth. She giggles as the flash goes off. Rick takes the picture and they both approve of the results, but unfortunately, their meetup is already at an end.
Looks okay to me.
Oop, I better be getting back home. My Uncle Max gets mad when I stay out too late at night. With boys, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, good luck tomorrow and have a good mission, Rick. I'll see you when you get back. Bye!
I might not be back.
Those anxieties, so easily forgotten in the presence of Minmei, come back hard. At least she seemed carefree. As Rick regards the photo of them, he remembers what it is he is fighting for. Dr. Lang informs Captain Gloval of the results of his research. Unfortunately, they aren't able to make a barrier field large enough to envelop the entire SDF-1. However, Dr. Lang has created a system called the Pinpoint Barrier. The photons making up small individual barriers can be controlled and moved around the ship, intercepting incoming artillery and energy blasts. It isn't much, but it's better than nothing. At the barracks, Roy checks in on Rick, rightly figuring he'd still be awake. He gets after him about it, reminding him he'd better get some sleep before they head out. But it's only because Roy understands exactly what Rick is going through this night.
I sympathize with you, Rick, but you'll just have to count fan jets or something. Go to sleep. I feel sorry for the poor kid. The first combat duty is always the worst. I remember mine. It's tough waiting around, thinking of the battle ahead.
Fresh in his memory is the encounter Rick first had with the giant Zentraedi warrior back on the island. Tomorrow, he'll be expected to kill many more just like him, or be killed by them. Yet if they took the ship, if they killed everyone on board, well, that would include...
All pilots, man your VERITECHs. This operation will be directed towards the Cassini Quadrant. Repeat, this operation will be directed towards the Cassini Quadrant. All squadrons will wait in the ice fields until further orders. Good luck, men.
Sleep okay?
Sort of.
Good. I was in the same kind of shape for my first action.
You were?
Don't worry, losing a night's sleep won't kill you.
Of course it won't.
Ready or not, it was time for the mission. Rick and the other brave pilots of the SDF-1 gather at the Prometheus, as we hear Lisa continuously giving orders to the many fighter squadrons launching to their assigned coordinates.
Take off from pre-assigned locations.
Rick nervously lifts up to the flight deck, turned towards Saturn, as Roy gives the order for the Skull Squadron to take off.
Skull Squadron, commence immediate takeoff.
VERITECH Skull Squadron. VERITECH Skull Squadron 23. Pilot Rick Hunter prepared for takeoff.
Roger.
Squadrons of VERITECHs fly low against Saturn's rings, using the many chunks of ice and other particles to hide them from Zentraedi's sensors. Rick can't help but notice these daredevil pilots maneuver so dangerously close to the ice, and decides he'll show them a thing or two about stunt flying.
Look at them. I wonder why they all fly so dangerously.
Skull 23, what in blazes are you doing?
Huh?
Just where were you at the meeting? Asleep? I'm sick and tired of repeating myself. That kind of flying will give you away to the aliens.
But...
This is no time for acrobatics, you idiot.
But all the other pilots were flying really dangerously, so I thought that...
Shut up, Hunter. You follow your instructions, you hear me?
Okay, I gotcha.
Is that the way to speak to superiors? Look around, wise guy. You're the only one who's flying dangerously.
Roger.
That old sourpuss was certainly making Rick pay for his comments. Roy reminds the other fighters as they enter the shadow zone of the rings to keep an eye on their instruments as well as for the ice. The look and colors of this scene entranced me as a kid. The greens from Rick's gauges illuminating the cockpit, the tension as he watches for incoming chunks of ice when all you can see are his position lights and boosters. Lisa takes another opportunity to harass Rick, noticing he's not flying so fancy anymore. He takes the abuse, but mumbles loud enough for even Claudia to hear on the other end.
How come I'm the one who's lucky enough to be razzed by some dumb know-it-all in a nice, safe control room?
Just once before this operation is over, it'd be nice if he'd learn to keep his mouth shut.
That's all right, Claudia. I don't really mind.
Lisa realizes maybe she's paid Lieutenant Hunter back enough for his remarks from before, and should maybe cut him some slack. At least for the rest of this mission. Captain Gloval gives the order to ready the main gun as they position the SDF-1, ready to strike when the Zentraedi come. The Zentraedi fleet closes in on Saturn, and BREETAI, wanting to keep the bulk of his fleet out of the range of the battle fortress's formidable primary weapon, sends his trusted Captain Zuriel to provoke whatever trap the Micronians have prepared. Their cannons fire near the shadow zone of the rings, that being the most likely place for an ambush. Even though the VERITECHs are prepared for this as they pull their decoy maneuver, it doesn't make the near-miss explosions any less scary. Seeing that their plan is working, Roy orders all squadrons to strike. The fighters stand no chance head-to-head with Zuriel's ship, and such a weak attack frustrates Exodor in its absurdity. BREETAI wonders if these Micronians truly do know anything about space war, and decides to call this possible bluff by ordering Zuriel to unleash his full strength at them. The destroyer-class vessel skims the surface of the rings, deploying its battle pods and heading right for the flight squadrons. As Vanessa announces the range of the Zentraedi ship, Gloval orders the SDF-1 to raise and fire the main gun to annihilate it. However, the main gun is unresponsive. As Claudia tries to work the issue, Dr. Lang immediately calls the bridge on the comm, warning that the new pinpoint barrier system seems to be interfering with the main gun, and they are analyzing a solution. Captain Gloval grunts at this turn of events. The Zentraedi launch low-yield missiles to attempt to disable the battle fortress, but newly trained operators of the barrier system stand ready.
Beam missiles approaching. Pinpoint barrier system control ready.
Ready. I can't move it fast enough. I'll never make it.
No, not to the side. Move it to the front, to the front.
It's not a flawless system, but at least it seems effective at blocking the attack of Zuriel's ship. Feeling he's being played for a fool by these Micronians, he sends all his battle pods at the SDF-1, surrounding them in a swarm. The barrier system can't keep up. Lisa informs Gloval that the battle is taking its toll on the fighter squadrons, with Roy's Skull Squadron the only one making a dent in the enemy. The captain puts his faith in the Skull to keep the enemy at bay. Among the chaos outside, Rick and Roy have each other's back, but wonder what's holding up the main gun. It should be wiping out the enemy by now. Captain Gloval seems resigned, feeling he may have led his crew and the citizens of Macross City to their doom with this exploit. Without the main gun, they stood no chance. But Lisa isn't ready to give in just yet.
Captain, do you think it would be possible to somehow concentrate all the pinpoint barrier energy and direct it to the front of the Daedalus?
Yes, it would, but why?
I have an idea, but I don't know if it's feasible or not.
Well, let's try it.
All right, Kim and Sammy, collect the Destroids and place them at the front of the Daedalus.
Right.
Claudia, direct the fortress in a frontal attack on the alien ship.
You got it.
Whatever she has in mind, it's certainly brazen if nothing else. Rick has been holding his own against the battle pods, but an explosion sends him careening at the Zentraedi ship. Switching to Battleoid, he doesn't quite crash. In his counterattack, he falls into an open hatch in the ship and finds himself trapped. Looking for a way out, it isn't long before he comes face to face with one of the giant warriors. They stare at each other in surprise and fear both, as Rick instinctively raises his rifle at the warrior, but to fire at another living being with that look in their eyes. The SDF-1 closes in, now tanking the shots from the Zentraedi destroyer, facing off with it, neither one veering off. Zuriel assumes they're planning to ram him, but his continuous cannon fire does nothing to deviate it from its course. With the full might of the barrier system collected at the front of the Daedalus carrier, Lisa gives the order to begin this unique attack.
Okay, Daedalus, commence firing.
The SDF-1 punches Zuriel's ship, crushing through the entire center, breaking anything in the path of the Daedalus. It comes to a rest, coincidentally, right before the command bubble of Zuriel and his advisor, who are as confused as they are amazed. Before they can make sense of this Micronian tactic, the Daedalus opens the ramp at her bow, which reveals several Excalibur and Monster-class Destroids, all ready to unleash their entire armament inside Zuriel's ship. The ordnance tears through the vessel, nearly blowing apart Rick as he faces off with that giant warrior. And we see the results of the multiple explosions bulging the hull as they work their way towards the rear of the ship and seemingly cause the hatch which trapped Rick to open up. He climbs out just in time to witness the results of Lisa's Daedalus attack maneuver. With the SDF-1 firing its boosters to reverse away from Zuriel's ship, pulling the full length of the Daedalus carrier with it, and moving clear as the Zentraedi destroyer explodes in extravagant display. The SDF-1, having quelled the onslaught, stands composed in victory as the bridge crew all look on, astonished.
Lisa, congratulations!
Yeah! Incredible! 3 cheers for Daedalus! I'm getting to be a real fan of yours, Lisa.
While Captain Gloval nods his approval and gratitude at Lieutenant Hayes, we find BREETAI watching the results of this battle from afar. He marvels, almost bemused, at the tactics of these Micronians, who seem to consistently and creatively push back at the Zentraedi. BREETAI determines that perhaps he could use someone who has the same tendency to think outside the box. Someone with the level of audacity and cunning these Micronians continue to display.
Perhaps it's time we called in reinforcements.
Yes, come on.
The VERITECHs under Roy mop up the remaining enemy fighters, yet Rick finds himself haunted by the image of seeing that Zentraedi and the look of fear in his eyes. He would later mention this to Roy, who understood the feeling, having gone through a similar experience of his own as a new recruit. He told Rick not to worry, that experience would erase all doubts as he remembers what he fights for.
An American president once observed that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. There's no more flying for fun. This time you'll be flying for the safety of your home and for your loved ones. For your loved ones, Rick.
Rick couldn't help but realize how much his life had changed in the last few months, how much he had changed. Considering this, he had no notion of what the future could possibly hold, certainly. But one thing was certain. He would continue on this path, protecting those he loved, and ensuring their lives would continue, no matter what happens to his own. The end of this episode, Blitzkrieg, was also the end of that first tape David and I watched of Volume 1. Now, I know I mentioned how I rewound the tape and we watched it a few more times that very night. And when I finally crashed out and fell asleep, all I knew was I wanted more. I wanted to know what else was in store for Rick and Roy and Minmei and Lisa and Captain Gloval and even BREETAI and Exodore. I'd have to wait for Bash to come through for us and procure the next few volumes. And let me tell you, I had no idea how amazing this journey became. And the characters that we have yet to meet. And just how crazy and enjoyable and heartbreaking the adventure becomes. Just no idea. No idea how cool it gets from here.